Fuck you. I mean, that's seriously. If I want to dress like an Indian or a cowboy, go fuck yourself. Hi, welcome to Krush House. I'm your host, Wayne Allyn Root, the CEO of VegasWinners.com, and the man the media calls the king of Vegas sports gambling and America's oddsmaker. I'm the only sports handicapper in the world with a 180-pound granite star on the Las Vegas Walk of Stars. My company, Vegas Winners, sponsors the Krush House series. This podcast, Krush House, as well as Krush House Cappers and Krush House Legends. Whether you love sports, famous sports legends, or profiting from sports gambling, that's the one. We've got the podcast for you. Later in the show, I'll be back with my Football Insider segment with former NFL quarterback Sean Salisbury to bring you insights on the NFL and valuable point spread advice for all the sports gamblers out there. But right now, I'll throw it to my main men, Frank and Sean. See you in a few minutes.
Hey, what's up, everybody? The housing market is going crazy, but no matter what the offer is, we are never selling the Krush House, where the door is always open, and we have guests stopping by all the time. Wayne Allyn Root, he will be by to talk some NFL with this guy right here. That's Sean Salisbury. He's the steak. I'm Frank Nicotero, and I'm the hot dog. Frank?
Just the man. Just the
wiener?
Just the
I don't know.
man.
All right, the man. All right, let's crush it. Sean, look, you guys know, everyone knows I'm a Steeler fan, right? I watched the entire game because I didn't feel like watching tape delay Olympics where I knew the results already. So I even watched the fourth quarter, and I had to check my roster. I don't know a lot of these guys, but the fourth quarter is huge for guys in camp, right?
Yeah, as long as fans understand that like you do, Frank, and don't get all hissy fit and pissing down their leg. I can't believe what's he doing it's preseason. Slow your roll. Yeah. Slow it down now. They're feeling pressure too. You're not going to see much of your starters, and rightfully so. Hell, I wouldn't give Najee Harris, honestly, as a first-round rookie, I wouldn't give him 20 carries during the preseason games. Yeah. I'd get all the work in the practice and get him. I need him. I can't do that. You're working on a little bit, but it's that guy you're talking about, Frank, and I was that guy, meaning undrafted after 2 knee surgeries and having to show up to camp and every damn snap, practice, playing, that people don't see at home, that they just get to turn on Fox and say, oh, man, you threw a pick, or all those things that go into it, because the first rounder has luxury. The bubble player, kind of, if he's a veteran, they trust him. It's the young guy who's trying to make it on special teams, trying to survive every friggin'. It's 38-3, and you're the quarterback, comes in, you get 10 snaps, Frank. You're sitting there saying, I got to complete every one of these bastards, or the coaches are judging me different. So there's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of panic. There's a sense of, did I prepare enough? So while you and I are saying, giving him the middle finger and saying, I've had enough preseason football, they're going, screw you, this is my Super Bowl. Yeah, I may never get this chance again. And so they, you go out there and do it. So while it doesn't look on the surface to us like it matters, to them, it matters for all those guys that are bubble and or trying to impress coaches.
Okay, well, Sean, like you said, you were undrafted. Tell me about your first preseason game. What do you remember about it? When did you get into the game?
Frank, I'll be honest, my dad told me when I got on that plane, I may have mentioned this to you before, put a chip on your shoulder, but for the right way. Go focus and prepare. Don't let anybody outwork you. And he goes, if you do that, you'll last as if you were drafted. So I went to Seattle. I'll never forget eating the dinner the night before with Bobby Joe Edmonds, who ended up being a Pro Bowl return guy. We were sitting in a restaurant, and I'm like, you're trying to feel your way out. I was like, man, we got six quarterbacks on the roster. I was the last one signed. They had drafted a guy, signed a guy, had traded for Paul McDonald. Dave Craig and Gail Gilbert were there. So all those guys had played. So I said, I'm going to let it rip. Honestly, I said, screw it, fuck them. I am going to prove to them, I'm going to make it miserable on them that if they cut me, somebody else is going to want me. And for that, I prepared, scared to death, so I prepared every day like it was the only day I was going to play football again. And it sounds cheesy, Frank, but it was. And I had the best preseason of my life. My first game, threw a couple touchdowns. Next game, threw a couple touchdowns. By the end of the preseason, David Craig and I, we were splitting time. He played a half and I played a half in the fourth preseason game. That's when the fourth was more important than the third, right? We played, and I'm thinking, I didn't have any delusions I was going to beat David Craig out. But I had made enough impression where they're like, damn, this guy's relevant. But it was like one of those days where the deep ball just happens to lay it in your guy's hand. But I'm not saying that I was the best, but I can tell you this: very few that preseason trying to make a team had a better preseason than I did, because it was either that or get my ass sent home. And they ended up keeping me. And a guy they traded for, Paul McDonald, they cut him and he had to go somewhere else.
No, wait a second.
He's a Trojan friend of mine.
I was just going to say, wait a second. Was he a lefty?
Lefty, number 16, Rose Bowl winner. Listen, brilliant.
I remember him.
Yeah, one of the best guys ever. And and then the UCLA quarterback who they drafted, David Norrie, was a great buddy of mine. So I'm sitting there going, I love David Craig. Gail Gilbert and I played against each other. I mean, it was a whole Pac-12 love fest USC thing, right? Pac-10 at the time. But the thing is, I really wasn't competing against those guys. I was competing against, the team and making sure I made good decisions. So I was fortunate. And I was good teammates, but I was scared to death every day, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice my preparation to go out and stay out late. And it worked out, and everything I did that preseason seemed to fall into our hands, so I was fortunate.
See, that's great stuff. I love hearing that. And that name, Paul McDonald, I just saw the image of a left-handed quarterback in a Trojan uniform. So, all right, we have the same memories. It's crazy.
There you go, brother.
Well, you played. I just watched. But so you're talking
I spent too much time standing on the sidelines watching too, brother. I'll tell you that.
But see, you're talking about guys like high draft picks who are hyped players. You're talking about free agents that come in, undrafted guys that come in under the radar. I feel like in the NFL, the fans and the media especially really overhype guys. Now, in the NFL today, who are some guys you would say are completely overhyped right now?
And for some of them, the hype we put on them, it's irresponsible for some. We all do it.
Yeah. And
we start comparing Justin Herbert. Let's use that for an example. He's the next Dan Marino. Would you friggin' stop this shit? Let's let the guy pee a drop in a league after his rookie year and continue, so we're not too much pressure where we're overwhelming him with it. He seems to be able to handle it. And you're right about that, Frank, about we give guys pub, and a lot of them can't live up to the expectations. But they place high enough expectations on themselves, and when you get paid that money, it's pressure. For me, there's a couple guys that are sitting there, and I think, well, if they perform, one's on your team, and I talked about this with a buddy today, and another one is on a team in the same division. Get a load of this now in Pittsburgh. He had a really big year last year, but I think that people think Juju Smith-Schuster is DeAndre Hopkins, right? Yeah. And the next lad, he had 89, 90 catches or something. Yeah. And I still think there's another level. He gets a lot of pub because people love him, but I think they're waiting for another year of emergence as the number one guy, and I think he can get there. For me, it's been Odell Beckham. As much as I love it, he's so skilled and so talented, but the injury, and then the injury in New York, and then the injury in Cleveland, then flashes of brilliance, and then all those things that I'm thinking, if he ever gets back and gets close to the hype that he had early, the Cleveland Browns are going to be a bear to deal with. But I don't even think right now he's the best receiver on their team. I like Jarvis Landry more. Consistency. But if Beckham, if he hits and he's healthy, he's one of those guys that likes to prove people wrong. So right now for me, that hype isn't quite matched it, especially in the last 3 years. But if he gets back and he plays pissed, the Cleveland Browns could have a gem there, and it could be scary for everybody else.
I thought OBJ, OBJ. I always get it backwards. Right. I thought the same thing, and I'm afraid for him to have a big year because he's in the Steelers division. Now, you talked about Justin Herbert. Now, is there such a thing as a sophomore slump? Do you believe in that? Is that a real thing because they watch tape and they learn your tendencies and stuff like that?
Yeah, which it's an ever-adjusting game, Frank, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they do this. They go back and watch tape and say, man, he's a really good first or third down guy. Well, let's not give him a steady diet of this. Let's make him make more decisions. Confusion, which you respond to that as a player by, after a great season, the good ones go put in more time, right? And study and stay ahead of it mentally. Because physically, guys are good. The key is staying healthy, but can you mentally continue to elevate like Brady has, or Breeze, or Russ Wilson, and take it to another game? Because they're constantly changing and doing these athletes are so good, they give you coverages that you say, where the fuck did that come from? Feels like there's 15 guys. Yes, there's a sophomore slump. Baker Mayfield went through it. Offensive rookie of the year, struggled year 2 with a coach, and it didn't work, and now he's back to being a Pro Bowl caliber great leader. It can happen. But the great ones don't let it fester long. They don't. Once they've learned, and if you're willing to grade yourself harsh, you don't need a coach to do it. I don't think Herbert's going to go through it now. To expect him to keep putting up Dan Marino-type numbers may be a little high, but it's not the numbers. It's how he improves and how his team improves, and then the numbers come along with it. But, yeah, we put too much hype on guys, but that's part and parcel to your ass gets paid. We expect you to elevate. I think Herbert's going to have a great year, and I actually think he'll be in the MVP talk as well.
Yeah, he had an unbelievable year. I watched a lot of the Charger games out here because they were always after Steeler games.
Right.
And I mean, no one expected that. There's guys fighting for spots. There's guys fighting in camp. And I know you and Wayne talked about all these fights, especially that New York Giants fight. So let's go to you and Wayne talking about some fights. Wayne Allyn Root, take it away, buddy.
All right, this is the segment we do each week on the Krush House podcast. And I'm Wayne Allyn Root, if you haven't figured that out by now. And I love to interact with my buddy Sean Salisbury, former NFL quarterback, great all-around dude, my brother from another mother. We have some great interaction. I do that with Frank Nicotero, too. I found two guys that we all could spend all night long talking about football and have a great time every night, 7 nights a week. Hey, Sean, great to see you again, and let's talk a little NFL. You ready to go?
Let's go, brother. I'm in. It's time. It's here.
All right, so let's start with number one, the New York Giants brawl. I got to get your perspective as a former NFL quarterback. What the hell happened, and what could cause that big a brawl with teammates, and what does it lead to, good or bad?
You know, Wayne, that's a great point. And what happens, the reason that happens is you get tired of beating the shit out of each other on your own team, right? So you say, I want to go battle somebody else. And so you can't wait to play somebody else. And it's the two-a-day, the frustration. There's pressure, people trying to make a team. But I'm going to tell you, I love it. And Wayne, regardless of what coaches say, on the public, they're going to say, we can't have injuries. Nobody wants anybody hurt, your quarterback or any player. But when they walk back to their meeting room or their staff meeting and the players aren't around, the media's not around, I don't know a coach in all the years I played or the years I've covered it that didn't love, as long as nobody got hurt, the feistiness, the passion. Even Joe Judge, after it happened, the next day he came back and said, I got to tell you, after he chewed his team out, it kind of turned me on, was his phrase. So coaches love it because it tells you, Wayne, think about this in anything you do. You're an intense guy. You're passionate. Can you imagine somebody having to come to you and say every day, hey, I need you to ramp it up a little bit? Coaches cannot stand that shit. They want you to be ramped up. They'd rather say, hey, man, back off. And so secretly they love it because it says you're ready, you're intense, you love what you do, you're passionate, and you're tired of taking crap. Now you just want them to go beat on somebody else. As long as you don't get hurt and it's smart. During the regular season, you don't want to take penalties. Training camp fights are the best. Real quick, Joey Browner was a teammate of mine in USC and in Minnesota, Wayne. And
I remember him well. Wide receiver, I remember.
Guy. Yeah. And we've been teammates for a long time. Whenever a fight broke out, and it seemed like we were having them every day in Minnesota, which everybody loved because we'd have beat your ass in the parking lot too. We were that type of team. But whenever Joey Browner came running towards a pile or was in a fight, it quit quickly. Because ain't nobody messing with that cat. He's going to tear you limb from limb. So fights are good, Wayne, as long as nobody gets hurt. It shows something, and coaches secretly love that.
I had a little bit of intensity myself in my younger days, so I can tell you about fights, but we won't get into that right now. But I will say this. I did read where one of the players, I think it was a high draft pick for the Giants, grabbed Daniel Jones and pulled him away from all the fighting. And that's smart. I think fights are great in the NFL in practice between teammates. I agree with you. It's good stuff, and it shows the intensity and the passion, but never let the quarterback get near it. Can you imagine if your whole season is ruined because he breaks his hand, his arm,
he's no
or
good
finger?
to us. Right, Wayne? He's no good to you on the sidelines. I mean, you love a fight, but you're exactly right, and I know that's your style too. Get that guy out of there. We don't need him getting knocked around by somebody that weighs him by 80 pounds.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts, because they were, by many people's estimations, many experts' predictions, headed for a possible Super Bowl. They were that loaded this year, and a lot of people feel they have the best defense in all of football, and they've lost their quarterback. Carson Wentz is out for maybe 12 weeks, 5 to 12 weeks. That's a giant spread. I don't know where they come up with a number like that, but everybody heals differently, so that must be the deal. It could be 5 weeks, could be 12 weeks. So he's out for the first month or two of the regular season. So what do the Colts do now? Could they go back to Phillip Rivers? Tell us what to do.
Okay, before I answer that, I want your expertise and your passion. You love the Cowboys. You love hardcore football. You see Derek Carr in your city. From your point as a fan and a gambler, Wayne, and a guy who loves football, what would you do? if you were the Colts, would you play the young guy? You tell me. Is it Foles? Is it Rivers? And I'll give you mine. But I want to hear your expertise from a bunch of different angles on that.
I don't even have a slight debate. I trade for Foles. That's the kind of thing. You get a Foles. What I'm trying to say. You make sure that you've got somebody good. You don't ever play the young guy. Come on. They had Eason in what round? 4th round, I think?
Yes, 4th.
So you can't put him in the NFL in game 1. First of all, if he loses badly, incompetently for the first 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then a light bulb goes off and he starts to get good in week 7, your season's already ruined. You're 1-5. So I get a veteran every time. So whether you have to trade for him, whether you have Foles, whether you have Phillip Rivers, whether you have even Brent Huntley, although he's a veteran, but he's a career backup. So I just don't see him as the answer. So you got to trade for a veteran, former starting quarterback, or bring back Phillip Rivers. The problem with Rivers is, I saw his quote the other day. He's trying to stay in shape as a football coach in Alabama, but he said he still is a few weeks off from being in football shape. Well, there's no time for a few weeks off. That's the problem. Right. You can't be out of shape, football shape now. You have to be in football shape the moment they bring you in, I think. You tell me.
Yeah, and with the Phillip Rivers thing, first off, if somebody wants to offer Phillip Rivers to walk off Alabama high school and say, hey, we'll give you $15 million for 1 year, you take your ass and say, guys, have fun. I'll see you at the end of the season. I'm going to play again. Now, he's limited physically, as you know. He can't move anymore, and when they thought they had Wentz, a little bit more movement. But the Phillip Rivers thing and getting in shape, but here's what it tells me when people say, does he want to play? Wayne, you know this. When somebody leaves it open, that means they want to play. He has not shut the door, so I wouldn't be surprised. I'm with you on the Foles thing. Here's the one thing when I look deep into Foles. In Philadelphia, Wayne, he has been so good, right? But everywhere else, Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, he's just been kind of a guy. So when you take him out of Philly, you say, well, can the guy still play? Is he going to be a star or just a stopgap? Now, they got Sam Ehlinger, who's a backup too, and he's a rookie. So they don't have any veterans for a Super Bowl caliber roster. I'm with you. If you don't think Rivers can get in shape, go trade for Foles. Give up a 5th or 6th round draft pick. Maybe Frank Reich and him can get it back, and he can get some of that Philadelphia magic. This is a Super Bowl caliber team with right now a young quarterback who's not ready to play. We'll see how they fix this. But if you're Rivers and they call, get your ass to Indianapolis.
I hope I don't experience any of this. If Dak Prescott suddenly got injured again, it would ruin your whole season. It's all ruined.
Yeah, right.
Without the quarterback, you got nothing in the NFL. That's all that matters. Quarterback. Without the quarterback, you got nothing. All right, next question. Number 3 is I want to ask you about the Washington Redskins, which are now known as the Washington Football Team. They're not the Redskins anymore. So they've gone from changing the name to changing the attitude. Now they're warning the fans you cannot show up at the stadium dressed like an Indian with a headdress or war makeup. Isn't this ridiculous political correctness? Isn't this carrying it too far? We have freedom in America. It's a free country. If I want to walk in dressed like an Indian, it's a podcast. Can I say this? Fuck you. I mean, that's seriously. If I want to dress like an Indian or a cowboy, go fuck yourself. This is America. We're supposed to be able to do what we want to do. I'm sick of this.
Drop that mic, Wayne. Classic. Go fuck yourself. I love it, bro.
I'm from New York.
I understand. I'm with you, my man. We're sensitive about everything. And the name change. Let's compartmentalize. I get after all these years.